Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Joe. He's Nick. You are listening to hour number 2 of the Nick and Joe Show on ThinkRadio.ca. Coming to you from the Think Radio Broadcast Centre in Ottawa, Canada's national capital city. And this is segment number 3, episode 126, Nick.
Yes, it is.
And
that was brilliantly smooth, by the way.
If you're listening to us live, no problem. Just sit back, kick up, relax, open up a cold beer or a hot coffee or whatever. Well, no.
Your beverage of choice.
Your beverage of choice. But today we've had really chilly weather the last few weeks.
Yep. A hot toddy would be great.
Today was hot. It was warm. And here we are.
Warm.
Stuck in the studio.
For the time of year, it was warm.
For the time of the year, it has been warm.
So
you may want a cold beer after all.
You might. You know what? This is the kind of day and the kind of time of year where you can have anything.
Anyway, housekeeping. As I said, if you're listening to us live, great, no problem. Sit back, relax. We're going to go all the way through, do our whole show. And if you're listening to us on the podcast, this is number 3, part 3 of our 4-part podcast. And so it would be Monday morning that this is posted. So if you haven't listened to the previous 2 sections, parts, you can always go back and catch them. Part
at your leisure.
Part 1 at your leisure.
Leisure.
I meant leisure. I said lever, and then I repeated it, lever.
I'm glad I'm not the only one that has tongue-initis.
Well, do you remember when we had the combat zone, and I just could not get that intro? And I even wrote it out.
I know
a couple of times, and I've got it in front of me.
I can't even remember what it was now.
And I couldn't get it. I don't know why that was. Anyway,
where the enemy has nothing left to say but bail out, abandon ship, take cover, and I surrender.
And we surrender.
That's right.
That was it.
Yeah.
Those were fun days.
Yep.
And then we mellowed. We decided no more machine guns.
Although, I don't know. Maybe it wouldn't hurt to wake some people up as fire a few rounds out of 50 cal.
Anyway, if you haven't listened to part 1 or 2 of this week's podcast, I really urge you to go back and listen to our guest with Stephanie McAvoy, and she was talking about her experience on Parliament Hill here in Ottawa recently when she attended a gun association.
They called it an integrity march,
or whatever they wanted.
But it was about the illegal, by my definition, illegal seizure of legal firearms by the Prime Minister through an order in council, not through legislation. But
the interesting thing about her story was that her encounter with an ad hoc Black Lives Matter crowd and how they swarmed her and
assaulted
it was quite interesting. So she was our guest for parts 1 and 2. So if you haven't listened to those, go back and listen to them. I think it's quite a telling story. But right now we want to. I know we keep on saying we never want to talk about COVID-19 ever again.
Sometimes you don't have any choice.
It's Nick. I open up my news app in the morning, want to see what's happening in the world, and it's like sports scores.
Yeah.
Like it's, okay, this number of cases, this number of dead, etc. And, the numbers have been climbing. And in that respect, I suppose one could say that they're troubling. But I have to say, I don't mean to sound unfeeling or unconcerned or anything like that, but I do have to say that I still don't find the overall numbers, even though they may be more than the flu. I don't know, but they still are not impressing me in that I'm saying, we really have to do something. But anyway, the numbers have been going in the wrong direction for the last week or so, 10 days. And as a consequence of that, the government apparently here is now considering what measures it should take. And not just here, but in other jurisdictions as well. So the possibility exists that we're going to be going to some form of either greater restrictions on public gatherings again, or even in the extremis, returning to a lockdown. And, if I had a vote in this matter, which I don't, I would say, please, no lockdowns. Please, guys, get it into your heads that this is a very serious problem, and we should not be doing this.
Well, the thing that I find telling about this, about how really serious it is, first of all, they keep talking about new cases, but they never talk about either the mortality rate or survival rate. If this is really as deadly and dangerous as they say that it is, it's like talking about a battle. Well, we've had 5,000 guys shot at. Well, how many of them were hit? Oh, we don't know.
Right.
How many of them died? Oh, 2. Well, out of 5,000?
Right.
That's what we're worried about?
Well, it's interesting you say that, because just before the show, I was looking at some statistics for Canada. I wrote them down, but I don't know where I put my notes, but just going from memory now, there were somewhere just a little bit below 7.5 million tests that have been done so far in Canada. And out of those tests, there were 136,000, plus or minus a little bit, cases, confirmed cases. And out of that, there were somewhere around 9,100, I think it was, deaths that were attributed to COVID-19, or that the COVID-19 was a contributing factor in the death. And I think that's an important distinction to make. I don't want to play the statistics game too much, but just to point out to you, Nick, that the infection, how do I put this? The death rate, the case mortality rate, that is to say, the number of people who die who were of the people who were actually tested positive,
right,
works out to something around 6%, which is, it's not an insignificant number. The percentage of people who die amongst the number of tests that have been made is somewhere around 1.5%, a little more than 1.5%,
right,
which is fairly low. And I think given the thing is that the people who are tested, it's not random testing. It's people who feel that they have symptoms or they know that they've been exposed and they want to see whether they've contracted or not. So that rate of infection as a factor, or the rate of infection relative to the number of people who've been tested, that rate is actually probably inflated somewhat, because a lot of people out there are not getting tested because they don't have any symptoms. So in other words, the people getting tested, it's not random, they're self-selecting, so that number is going to be elevated anyway. So you're going to have already a higher rate of positive results from those tests, I guess is what I'm saying. But the problem here is, and my wife and I were talking about this morning, Nick. I've come to the conclusion that this is a baby boomer thing. Baby boomers are just so obsessed with themselves, and I guess maybe I'm not being fair, and I know people are going to listen to this and go, "Oh, that's a crazy thing to say," but just hear me out. When I was growing up, when you were growing up, Nick, people got the flu, and it was not a big deal. I mean, people who got sick, it was a big deal to the people who got sick, but kids got the flu in school. They stayed home from school. I have no recollection of a single time that a school was shut down because a couple of kids got the flu or caught the flu in the school. Nothing compared to what we've talked about here.
No.
Now, the rates for the flu might be lower than this COVID-19, but still, do we need to be closing down schools? Do we need to be closing things? And I just feel that there's it's almost as though baby boomers, and I think this is being driven by baby boomers. This is not being driven by younger people who are hanging out at the beach at Daytona Beach during March break or whatever. Okay, this is being driven by baby boomers and I guess Generation Xers, who are sort of, I think, have been, dare I say, tainted by the baby boomer sort of experience and attitude towards life. Everything is about, we have to be healthy. If we're not healthy, then something's terribly wrong. And all you have to do is turn on your television on a Sunday morning and watch a news program and watch all of the commercial after commercial after commercial and advertisement after advertisement after advertisement for some sort of a health product or something. You have to get vaccinated against shingles. Now, how many people do you know have gotten shingles?
And even if they
they're
do,
advertising for the shingles is a very serious thing. If you catch it, talk to your doctor. Talk to your doctor and get vaccinated against shingles. Okay, or my cholesterol is high, so used to be you went to the doctor, they prescribed medication. Now they're advertising for it. Okay, then they're advertising for better brain function. And please don't forget the prescription. Talk to your doctor about a prescription for dry mouth.
You got to take a drink of water.
I'm not even making these up, Nick.
No, I know.
Okay.
The thing about this, because my wife and I had the same conversation, and in general, I think you and I are on the same track here. I look at this and say, why are people so afraid? And my conclusion is that they think far more people are now either agnostic or atheistic than they ever have been before. And I'm not trying to talk people into being religious. That's for the individual to make up their own mind.
Of course.
Okay? But when you take the bulk of the society who had some kind of belief in a supreme being or a higher power, okay, believed in the Judeo-Christian ethic, that life, when it ends on earth, does not end. Death is a door, not a blind alley. And that you go from one plane of existence to another. And the great hope that people carried with them. And this is spelled out really well in the book Hunt for Red October, when Captain Ramius is talking about the things that the communists have stolen from the people. That is the greatest sin of all, and that is the hope of the future. In the book, the character, Captain Ramius, has lost his wife, and he carries with him in his stateroom a Bible. Now, he says he keeps it for sentimental value, but under the table, there's this hope that he's going to get a chance to see his wife again. Now, when you lose that hope, the only thing you have is the present. And that people are now so afraid of becoming ill and dying early that they cling to life with a tenacity unlike anything we've ever seen. And it's not that I want people to die. Don't get me wrong. I'm like, what's that old saying? I want to go to heaven. I'm just not ready to go right now. Okay. Like I want to live as long as I can too. There's things I want to do in life. I want to watch my grandchildren grow up. I want the fullness of whatever days I have. So I'm not saying we should all just go jump off a cliff. I am saying that the fear of death itself is so strong because people think that's it. The curtain comes down and your part in the play of life on earth is over. When I believe that it just passes from one phase to another, from one act to another. And because not enough people believe that kind of thing anymore, now you see people out there terrified of anything that might bring them to that early exit. So they slap these things on their faces and they curse anybody who goes around and threatens that.
Well, that's a theological perspective.
It is. I grant that.
I don't... I share much of it, being a religious person myself, but I think that there are non-theological aspects to this that have to be taken into account as well. And the first thing is this, Nick, with this mask business. Okay, I personally don't like wearing a mask, but I'll wear it. Okay. I'm a